welcome again to another edition of The Right Has Left. I am your host, Roy Garden, and as always, during these podcasts, we take a look at the past week's news events. We dissect them, and I give you my commentary on what I really think is going on behind the scenes. Sometimes my take is right in line with the mainstream media, and other times it's way off base. Who knows what we're going to be talking about? But let's get into this episode of The Right Has Left. And we're going to start off with some late breaking news, starting with the Indiana Senate voted 19-31 against, I repeat, against a bill to redraw the state's congressional districts to favor Republicans. The defeat of the bill was a major blow to President Donald Trump, who has pushed for redistricting nationwide to favor the GOP in the 2026 congressional midterm elections. In other words, he's scared. And congressional redistricting is typically only done once every 10 years and is after, of course, we have the census. But in this case, Donald Trump has been trying to push to get the redistricting done a little early because, as I said, he's very nervous about the Congress going over to the Democrats. Now, an explosion of ferociously partisan mid-decade redistricting contests have been a top priority for President Donald Trump, who has an eye on the razor-thin GOP House majority, offering a bulwark between himself and a hostile legislative branch that can gum up his agenda. The Indiana Senate on Thursday overwhelmingly voted down a bill to redraw the state's congressional districts to favor Republicans in a major blow to Donald Trump, as I just stated. Now, because of the failed bill, Trump, of course, got all pissed off and started screaming at the Indiana legislature for why they didn't support him, like he wants every Republican to support him, no matter what he expects from him. And, if this was done, the Republicans were expected to gain 2 additional seats in the U.S. House of Representatives if the redistricting bill had been approved by the Senate. Now, the State House of Representatives voted in favor of the bill last Friday. Now, as I have discussed this, as you are well aware of, redistricting has gone on in Texas, and that did pass. Now, of course, we got to have the elections first, but it's been done, of course, to favor the Republicans. As a countermeasure, redistricting has been done in the state of California to favor the Democrats. And here in the state of Florida, they're working on to do that, again, to favor Republicans. And I've got some great news about what's going on here in the state of Florida in just a little bit on this podcast. And, of course, he's tried to get other states to follow suit. But as I mentioned, some of these states just are not in favor of trying to do redistricting right now. So Trump, of course, as I said, he threatened to the state's Republican lawmakers with primary challenges, withholding funds and anything else they can do if they did not support his bill. In other words, he likes to bully people. If you don't do what I tell you to do, I'm going to make it bad for you. His failure to convince them is, of course, a rare loss in his effort to withdraw congressional maps in red states. Trump had successfully, as I just said, pushed for partisan gerrymanders in Texas, in North Carolina, Missouri, and Utah, which are all big red states, as the GOP tries to retain its zero-thin majority in the U.S. House in the 2026 midterm elections. Republicans hold 220 seats in that chamber, with Democrats holding 213. In other words, they've only got 7 seats that they can possibly give up. So we'll have to see what's going to happen there. I really, as it's presently looking right now, I think the Democrats stand a very good chance of taking over the House, which Trump, of course, is not going to like. They have 0 chance, I think, of regaining the control of the Senate. But as far as the House, of course, that's kind of going to be in a position to where I think that they can make some headway. So we'll just see what happens. Of course, the midterms is a ways off, but starting January 1st, of course, you're going to see a lot of people throwing their hats in the ring. So, in other breaking news, yes, a federal judge just yesterday, as I retape this on Saturday, has ordered that immigration officials cannot detain Kilmer Abrego Garcia hours after his release from immigration detention. Now, Garcia was appearing Friday morning for a scheduled appointment at an Immigration and Customs Enforcement field office some 14 hours after he was released from detention on a judge's orders. His lawyers did ask the judge to block authorities from detaining him once again. Officials cannot re-detain him until the court conducts a hearing on the motion for the temporary restraining order. U.S. District Judge Paula Zinkas in Maryland said that statement, and Garcia became a flashpoint of the Trump administration, if you do remember, on immigration crackdown earlier this year when he was wrongly deported to a notorious prison term. And if you all remember that, this was when he was deported to El Salvador. Now, he was last taken into custody in August during a similar check-in. Garcia on Friday stopped at a news conference outside the building, escorted by a group of supporters chanting, "We are all Kilmer. I stand before you, a free man, and I want you to remember me in this way with my head held high," Garcia said, though through a translator, of course. Now, I come here today with so much hope, and I thank God who has been with me since the start of my journey with my family. Garcia's fight with the Trump administration began when he was mistakenly deported and then returned back to the States, and then they're, of course, trying to get him on charges in Tennessee. He is a Salvadorian citizen with an American wife and a child who has lived in Maryland for years. He immigrated to the United States illegally, he does admit that, as a teenager to join his brother who had become a U.S. citizen. In 2019, an immigration judge granted him protection from being deported back to his home country, where he faces danger from a gang that targeted his family, while he was allowed to live and work in the United States under ICE supervision. He was not given residency status. Now, earlier this year, he was mistakenly deported and held in a notoriously brutal Salvadorian prison despite having no criminal record and facing mounting public pressure and a court order. Trump's Republican administration brought him back to the United States in June, but only after issuing an arrest warrant on human smuggling charges in Tennessee right after they did that. So he's trying to follow court orders like, okay, I'll bring you back, but let's come up with something else so we can just rearrest you again. So I'm going to follow up what the citizens want. We're going to bring you back, but let's come up with something else so we can rearrest you. And, of course, he did plead not guilty to those charges and ask a federal judge there to dismiss them. So there you go. This case with Garcia is just sad. Now, as we all know, and we have seen this time and time again, and I got, again, another story on this with Ice Barbie in relationship to her being put on the spot about, these people that they are arresting. Now, I will grant you we do have, illegal immigrants with no criminal record who are living in these United States, and many of them have been here for 20, 30 years. They came here as kids, and they have grown to, have families, have decent jobs. They, by all rights, even though they're not American citizens, they are here illegally. They have contributed to our country. Many of them have become service people who have fought for our country. They're proud to be living here in these United States. But, of course, ICE, when they are given the orders to arrest 3,000 people a day, no matter what they are or who they are or what charges they may have or what they have done, they go out and arrest these people. Even though they have no criminal records, which is what Trump, based his stance on when he ran for office. It's like, drug dealers, murders, rapists, mental cases, and, of course, everybody, rah, 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 yeah, get him out of here. And that's what his battle cry was. But then again, it turned into arrest anybody and everybody, even if they're here illegal and they have no criminal record, pick them up. And of course, that becomes something of of charges of racism. And of course, his loyal supporters, MAGA people, said that's fine, they're here illegally, get them out. I don't care what they're doing here. So it's become a big flashpoint, and to me it's just damn sad. So We'll have to see what happens. Moving on with other news that's going on here in these United States, of course, that is the Affordable Care Act, or the Obamacare, whatever you'd like to call it. Well, the Senate did fail to pass two competing health care bills on Thursday, on December 11th, just recently here. A result that guarantees enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies will expire at the end of the year, unless a last-minute deal is reached. Now, Trump has, of course, been always boasted, like, I've got a great idea for health care, but he hasn't been able to tell the American people what that great idea is, other than he's got a great idea. He wants to put money in the people's pockets to buy their own health care, is what it basically wants to do. But so far, that has gone absolutely nowhere. So again, January 1st, your health care benefits are going to skyrocket. So the expiration date is expected to cause a steep premium increases for millions of Americans. Details of the votes, both of the Democratic and Republican proposals, of course, require 60 votes to advance, but received only 51 votes each in the largely party line votes. Democratic proposal. This bill sought to extend the Enhanced Affordable Care Act tax credits for 3 years. It was supported by all Democrats, and yes, even 4 Republicans. Senators Lisa Murkowski of Arkansas, Dan Sullivan also of Arkansas, Susan Collins from Maryland, and Josh Hawley from Missouri all voted in favor of this particular bill for extension for 3 years. Now, the Republican proposal, this plan would have allowed the ACA subsidies to expire, replacing them with payments of up to $1,500 annually into health savings accounts for qualifying individuals. It was supported by all Republicans except for Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, who voted with Democrats to oppose it. Impact of the failure to pass the legislation, of course, without an extension. Here's what's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. Over 20 million Americans who purchased health care insurance through the ACA marketplaces could face substantial increases in their monthly premiums. According to healthcare research nonprofit KFF, the average annual premium payment for a subsidized enrollee could rise by 114%. Let me repeat that. 114%, from approximately $888 to $1,904 in 2026. The failure to reach a compromise follows a 6-week government shutdown earlier in the fall, which Democrats had forced in an attempt to secure an extension of the subsidies. Now, what comes next? Despite the failed votes, some senators have expressed optimism about a future bipartisan path forward. Time is running out, though, on that, folks. However, a solution is not expected before the end of the year, and some lawmakers are aiming for a resolution in January of 2026, after the increases already take place. Now, open enrollment for ACA plans to start on January 1st, 2026, ends on December 15th, 2025. Hey, it's almost gone. So, Americans seeking coverage must make decisions now, with the possibility of a future legislative fix remaining uncertain. Trump has stated he has a plan, but nothing has become of it. Nor do the Republicans, who promised the Dems they would come up with one and work if the Dems passed their big, beautiful bill, which the Dems ultimately had caved in and said, okay, you promised us you're going to fix health care. We're going to let this big, beautiful bill pass. It passed, and now the Republicans are going, yeah, screw you. You know, we thank you. So they were lying, is basically what they were doing. They don't give a rat's. The Republicans, of course, are telling their constituents out there and their base, MAGA base, we can't let this ACA go through because all the illegal immigrants are signing on to this and they're getting their benefits when they're not supposed to have it. So we got to fix this because too many people are getting the ACA benefits and they don't damn deserve it. So this is why we can't let this go through. It's the Biden administration's fault. It's always the Biden's administration. 12 years from now, it's going to be the Biden's administration's fault. Trump's been in office now for about a year, but he refuses to take any responsibility for any of this because it's still Biden's fault, or it's Obama's fault that this was created. And there's too many people who are getting on this thing and they don't deserve it. So that's the Republicans' battle cry. And of course, they lied out of their teeth when they told the Democrats that they would go ahead and come up with something to extend the Affordable Care Act. Again, they don't give a shit. They really don't. They got what they wanted, so screw you. And sadly, that's how things work in this present administration. Now, another thing that's going on in the news, of course, are the oil tankers that are presently being overrun and taken, and with one just in the news recently. And the Trump administration plans to hold the oil tanker it seized in waters near Venezuela at an American port in Texas, but release of the crew once the vessel's docks, so they say, according to 2 U.S. officials. Now, this is all having to do with Maduro, which, as you know, they want to get him out of office. So we'll have to see what happens. As this video plays behind me about the recent takeover of this oil tanker, the official said the tanker was seized in international waters. The American personnel on board the tanker have been interviewing the crew and offered for the U.S. to facilitate their travel from the ship after it arrives in a port in Galveston, Texas. So said the officials. Now, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said on Thursday that the U.S. would seize the oil on the tanker after it goes through a legal process to do so. The U.S. seized the vessel, a large tanker known as the Skipper, on this past Wednesday during a joint operation by the Coast Guard and the Navy at President Donald Trump's direction as part of his effort to ratchet up the pressure on the Venezuelan regime. It comes amid escalating tensions between the United States and Venezuela, with the Trump administration bombing alleged drug smuggling vessels and building up military assets in the region. Trump has also threatened that the Venezuelan leader, Nicolas Maduro, days in power are numbered, and the administration has said that the tanker is used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. Now, Leavitt called it a sanctioned shadow vessel known for carrying black market sanctioned oil to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which the U.S. has designated a foreign terrorist organization. The administration has provided few details about the tanker, the fate of its crew, or the legal rationale it used to seize the vessel. Again, we hear all this stuff on the news, but we never see any proof. It's just like the bombing of these small boats in so-called international waters, which has become a big stir. And, of course, they've had meetings about it. They said, yeah, there's cocaine and drugs on there. And, of course, the big news is there's 2 other people who are clinging onto the boat that survived the first go-around of the bombing, survived. And, of course, they turned around and killed them as well. And now the Republicans have said they have seen the video and they agree that the killings were necessary, that they were trying to perhaps radio for help or getting somebody else in there, or there's still drugs on board. And, of course, the Democrats are saying, bullshit, that's not exactly what happened, and we want to see more evidence. And Pete Hegseth, of course, he's with his Department of War. Everybody dies in my business. They're all crooks and they're all thugs and they're all terrorists. And so there you go. As far as this tanker, again, no proof, but this is what Trump is escalating. There's going to be boots on the ground in Venezuela pretty soon. You can bet my bottom dollar that's going to happen because they want to get Maduro out of office. So we'll just have to see what happens. Now, in other news, along with Mr. President Trump, let's go ahead and bring this up. Is the fact of the matter is that he had a recent interview on Political, which I'm going to play for here in just a second. And he said the economy and affordability, Trump's claim is that, as far as he is concerned, with the Trump administration, the economy is getting a grade A+++++, and insisted that prices are coming down substantially after he inherited a total mess from the Biden administration. In a recent interview on Political, he continued to embellish his record with unproven facts. So go ahead and watch this brief clip with his interview here on Political.
Can you rule out an American ground invasion?
I don't want to rule in or out. I don't talk about it. Why would I talk to you, an extremely unfriendly publication, if you want to call it Politico, that got $8 million from Obama to keep it afloat? Why would I do that? Why would I talk about that to Politico? I mean, I'm doing this because you picked me as a man for Europe.
I'm asking for transparency for their American people, because a lot of folks are, people are wondering
I am the most transparent politician maybe in the world.
A lot of folks are wondering what our goals are in Venezuela.
But I don't want to talk to you about military strategy.
Well, may I ask then, what is your goal in Venezuela? What do you want to see with the actions that you're taking?
I own a big project, Doral. It's a great place, Doral Country Club. Yeah, mm-hmm. And it's a very large place, beautiful place, right in the middle of, they call it Little Venezuela. And I got to know the Venezuelan people very well because of that. I've owned it for a long time.
I want to talk about the economy, sir, here at home, and I wonder what grade you would give
A+.
your economy. A+.
Yeah, A++++++.
Well, it's interesting because I talked to a supporter of yours. Her name is Melanie from Westmoreland County, PA, and she loves you. She gave you overall an A++ grade. But here's what she said about the economy. She said, quote, groceries, utility, insurance, and the basic cost of running small business keep rising faster than wages. She also says that not enough is being done. Mr. President, this is one of your supporters.
Okay, good. And I love her because you said I got an A+ on everything, I guess. I don't know. But
she's still worried about the economy.
But what you have to understand, the word affordability. I inherited a mess. I inherited a total mess. Prices were at an all-time high when I came in. Prices are coming down substantially. Look at energy. You and I discussed before the interview energy. Energy has come down incredibly. When energy comes down, everything, because it's so much bigger than any other subject, but energy has come down incredibly. Prices are all coming down. It's been 10 months. It's amazing what we've done. If you think of gasoline a gallon, they had it at $4.50, almost $5. You go to some of the states, you had it at $6. We hit 3 states 2 days ago, $1.99 a gallon. When that happens, everything comes down. Now, everything is coming down. With beef, I've just opened that up where beef is going to start coming down pretty substantially.
Would you consider more carve-outs on other goods that Americans find too expensive?
Well, some carve-outs, you mean from tariffs?
From tariffs, yeah, like coffee, like bananas.
Sure, and I've done that already with coffee. They're very small carve-outs. It's not a big deal. But let me tell you about the real economy. We've got $18 trillion coming into our country. Biden had less than $1 trillion for 4 years, and he was heading south. Our country was falling apart. 18 trillion because of tariffs. $18 trillion is coming into our country. I think because of tariffs and November 5th election, if you want to know the truth. But
so would you rule out reducing tariffs on any more goods?
On some, and on some I'll increase tariffs.
And of course, this is going to be our top story because we need to dissect here some of the things that President Trump was saying and how much of it actually was fact. So, here are the facts. Inflation is, yes, in fact, stable, but remains above the target as what they're trying to get. As of September of this year, 2025, which has the latest available data, the annual inflation rate, consumer price index, was 3.0%. Now, that's a slight uptick from August. While this rate is significantly lower than the 9.1% peak in June of 2022, under President Biden, it is still above the Federal Reserve's 2% target, even though, as you just heard, the feds have lowered the interest rate by just a 0.5%. They wanted 0.10%, Trump administration, but they settled on 0.5%. Now, many Americans, including some of the Trump's own supporters, mentioned in the political interview report that costs for groceries, utilities, insurance, and running a business continue to rise faster than their wages. Food prices have increased by 3.1% year over year as of September 2025, with specific items like meats, poultry, fish, and eggs up over 5%. Now, Trump, of course, says, "Well, we're gonna work on those beef prices. You know, we're gonna work with the farmers here, and we can, I agree that maybe some of the stuff is up, but we're going to get the prices down." Now, the price of eggs in particular is higher now than it was in the peak under the Biden administration. And gas prices and energy costs, Trump's claims. Of course, he said that gas prices are going down. In fact, he has surveyed some places that gas is down to, below $1.99 a gallon, Of course, I don't know where he found that, maybe on Gas Buddy or something, but what they have found, there is nowhere that they've seen gas for $1.99. If it was, it's just for a brief moment. Gas is at $2.79 a gallon here in the state of Florida where I live. So it is down from $3.10 a gallon, but how long it stays there because gas prices have been fluctuating. And I'm not kidding. It has been $2.79 and then goes back up to $3.10, $3.15, then back down to $2.99. So gas prices are fluctuating like really crazy right now. And, of course, he claimed in the interview that in recent rallies he saw gasoline prices were way down and then have collapsed under his leadership, sometimes adjusting prices at near $2 a gallon. That has not been found. And, gasoline prices are remaining somewhat flat to stable below than a few years ago, so we give him credit for that. But the average nationally is about $3.11 a gallon. Now, when he took office in January 2025, as of mid-November 2025, the average price was around $3.06 a gallon, which kind of makes sense like here in the state of Florida. Only a slight decrease in about 50 cents more than he has claimed. Energy costs overall are rising for households. The term energy prices can be, again, misleading. While crude oil prices have fallen on a world market, even with what's going on with these Venezuela tankers, there has been no scare on the crude oil market. Prices have still remained somewhat steady. Electricity costs were 6.2% higher in August of 2025 than a year prior, outpacing overall inflation, while natural gas prices saw a 13.8% jump. So, again, as you can see, a lot of stuff what Trump is spewing, especially at his political rally to his base. Again, when you talk to your base and your MAGA supporters, you're going to get a lot of, whatever you say, yeah, that's great. When you're talking to your base, you could say a bear craps in the wood, and they're going, yeah, they sure does. You're going to get that when you don't have a mixed audience of, neutral people or maybe some Democrats in there. You're all going when he holds these rallies, it's all for television and for show. Your base is there, and they're going to do whatever and clap to whatever you have to say. And of course, as you know, Trump rambled off and got off the teleprompter and just rambled on for hours about everything and anything. And some people were leaving. So, but again, his about 1% of what he said in the interview is actually true. Gas prices basically prices are coming down a little bit, but not on food, not on energy. They're going way up. And even with what you saw with the Feds lowering the interest rates just a smidgen, it shows that the economy is still in the tank, and there's just no way about it. And that goes me to the next part about this, my top news story. A CNN SSRS poll showed last month that found 61% of Americans said Trump's policies have worsened economic conditions in this country, basically because of tariffs. Now, a recent CBS survey found only 30% approved of Trump's handling of the economy, which was his one-time strength. The contradiction between the president's claims of success and the lived experiences of many Americans raises the questions of whether Trump, a billionaire, and his wealthy cabinet have lost touch with what the country is really feeling. Again, and this is true, his entire cabinet is made up of billionaires or 2 times over millionaires. And when you got that much wealth, they are out of touch with the working class. They don't know how people are hurting and feeling. Why? Because when you're that rich, every freaking thing is handed to you. From butlers driving your cars to the security detail because they're on the cabinet, to the food that they eat. They don't pay a damn penny for gas. They don't pay a damn penny for electricity. They don't pay a damn penny for anything because everything, when you're that wealthy, is handed to you. And they don't give a crap, and that's sad, but that's just a common thing. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. You've heard that phrase. And this is why they think that people are out of touch. Now, why the latest Obamacare fight is so crucial, the fight over health care is also the most urgent and visible clash in the affordability crisis. I have a friend, as I said, his insurance is going to go up $900 a month if something isn't done. Again, these wealthy people don't get that because their health care is provided for them. They don't pay a damn thing for anything, so they don't care. And both Democrats and Republicans in Congress get their health care for life for free after they've served 2 terms. And so they don't care. They're out of touch, They may say that we feel for you. They don't feel for you. It's whoever is, doing the lobbying and putting money in their pocket, that's who they care about. If the enhanced subsidies expire at the end of this year, enrollees will face payments that many can't afford, doubling from $888 to $1904 next year on an average, as I just mentioned to you. In an earlier part of this podcast, a nonpartisan healthcare policy group, the KFF, stated this. The stark politics on this issue for Republicans explain why Democrats picked the subsidies as a trigger for the government shutdown. They failed to achieve their goal, but highlighted the catch-22 of GOP lawmakers who want to kill Obamacare, but whose success would hurt millions of their voters who rely on the program. So again, when the midterms come around in 2026 here, you wait and see about the Republicans maybe gaining control, the Democrats gaining control of the House, because this is going to be a big marching bell about health care and everything else in the economy, and people are feeling it. Some Republicans are pushing to extend the subsidies. As we know, 6 of them did side with the Democrats to give them time to drop in more permanent replacement care for health plan, but that failed. Others want reform before agreeing to the extension, but then the question becomes how to help Americans who suddenly find themselves with premiums they cannot afford. To summarize all this, President Donald Trump's approval on the economy and immigration have fallen substantially since March, according to a new AP NORC poll, the latest indication that 2 signature issues that got him elected barely a year ago could be turning into liabilities as the party begins gear up for the 2026 midterms. Only 31% of U.S. adults now approve of how Trump is handling the economy. And that, folks, is getting pretty scary. Now, again, as journalists question Trump on these situations, he, of course, is his big word, all fake news. CBS is full of it. Their reporters don't know jack. AP, that's why I don't let them on the plane. They don't know jack about what's going on. They're all liars. And this is why Trump wants to control the media. And it's now happening with perhaps the owners of CNN. They're trying to work into this deal with Netflix. They need Trump's approval and the FCC's approval to do all these big purchases. In turn, they sell their soul to the Trump administration, and it's another news outlet that Trump can control. Just like he's now, the only one he doesn't, really have too tight of control on is ABC, and that's going to probably slowly be turning as well, because Disney owns ABC. So if this deal with CNN goes through, they promised that they would tone down the Trump rhetoric if they let this deal go through, which means journalists will probably get fired. I've never in my life, and I have my degree in journalism as well, that I ever thought I would see a state-controlled media in this United States where you're supposed to have freedom of the press. And it is slowly dissipating to where we are having a state-controlled media. In other words, you report favorably on me or I'm going to make you pay. You cannot say anything negative about me. And that's what you see in Russia and North Korea state-controlled media. It's all good stuff, or you don't say nothing at all, or we will see that you're going to pay for it. And sad, but fact. Lastly, Trump's tariffs are also contributing to inflation, but getting inflation to slow down or prices to drop will be easier than said than done for the Trump administration, which has embraced economic policies such as tariffs that force prices upward. And Trump and other administration officials have argued that tariffs are necessary to correct past global trade policies that have been unfair in the United States and bring back domestic manufacturing. Although tariffs are raising about $30 billion per month in revenue for U.S. coffers, the new import taxes levied by the Trump administration have increased prices on a number of items, from food to clothing to furniture. A customer shops for a produce at an H-E-B grocery store on February 12th of 2025 as an example in Austin, Texas, and found that prices went up 30%. Now, what they find surprising, he's telling other people, this isn't happening. It's a con job. Again, the media's got it all wrong. This is not what's going on. There's no affordability problem. And at the, and sadly, there is. Now, last month, Trump scrapped some of the tariffs on certain products that aren't widely produced in the United States to try to make a favor to the U.S. citizens, such as bananas and coffees. Okay, we won't put tariffs on that. And on Monday, the administration announced that it was making $12 billion in a one-time payment to the United States farmers to offset their rising, business costs. $12 billion. Because the farmers have been complaining that, because of the tariffs, they're getting hurt too. So, Trump still loves these tariffs, and he said the United States is making billions and billions and billions of dollars off these tariffs. And he, of course, this is where he was getting the $2,000 per person per U.S. citizen, checks in the mail, because he said the United States has just made so much money on this that we can afford to give it back to the American people. Of course, we're waiting to see if that happens, because Congress and a lot of people said that's technically illegal. You can't do that. But we'll have to wait and see. These tariff deals, bargaining back and forth is also helping the Trump family themselves, because they're trying to get, do these deals overseas, build property and hotels and stuff. And so that's why he gives back and forth on these tariffs, okay, we're taxing you, but if you do this for me, we'll lower the taxes. And, every economist that's out there that has, their PhDs and everything have all said tariffs just do not work. But Trump seems to think so. So we will, again, kind of have to watch this stuff and see what's going on. Now, some other news that's kind of like a big swing on all this is, of course, the National Guard. Now, federal judges ordered the National Guard to leave Los Angeles and return to back to their own bases. Governor Gavin Newsom is controlling a stern rebuke of the Trump administration's contention that it can leave troops in the city indefinitely. The order handed down just yesterday goes into effect at noon on Monday. It is profoundly un-American to suggest that people peacefully exercising their fundamental right to protest constitute a risk, justifying the federalization of military forces, so said the U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer, who wrote in his opinion. The Los Angeles case is just one of several challenging Trump's deployment of the National Guard in liberal cities, including Chicago and also Portland. So, again, these Guard deployments are not in red states. They are all being deployed in blue states. And the U.S. Supreme Court, of course, is weighing a case of Trump's call-up of troops in Chicago, which could further determine whether the domestic mobilizations are constitutional. Breyer in June issued a separate decision against Trump's Los Angeles deployment, but the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals blocked that ruling from taking effect and allowed the troops to stay. Now, today's ruling is abundantly clear. The federalization of the National Guard in California is, in fact, illegal and must end, Newsom said in a written statement. The president deployed these brave men and women against their own communities, removing them from the essential public safety operations. We do look forward to all National Guard service members being returned to state service. White House spokesman, of course, Abigail Jackson, suggested that the administration would appeal the ruling in a statement to the Associated Press, adding that they expected ultimate victory on the issue. The Trump administration used Section 12406 of the U.S. Code to justify sending National Guard troops to Los Angeles in early June, when aggressive immigration enforcement operations led to the protests. They wanted to protect their ICE people, so they sent in the National Guard to protect ICE. The administration also issued a similar order in August and again in October, each time citing the clause that permits Trump to federalize National Guard troops if the president is unable with the regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. And these laws, of course, as I have said, are to pick up 3,000 illegal immigrants a day. And now the Guard is there to protect ICE so they can round up their 3,000 illegal immigrants a day to do what they need to do. And again, if you remember that video that was made by the Democrats, where they said, if you feel that the duty that you've been assigned is unconstitutional and it violates the Constitution, you don't have to follow those orders. And it has come out that some of these National Guard people, even though they show up and get deployed and they don't like what they see, like, some of the immigrants being physically harmed and stuff when they're rounding them up because they don't want to go, and ICE is, saying we need backup, and they're, physically harming these people, throwing them to the ground or whatever. And a National Guard person may say, I don't want to do this. These are U.S. citizens, and some of them have been proven to be. Yes, they are. And they say, I'm disobeying that order. And so, this is where this is all kind of coming down to, is a lot of people, when you're starting to, bring troops, military into your own homeland, it bothers a lot of people, and it bothers a lot of these service people, like, harming their own people. So, this is where some of this stuff is coming out. I'm not taking one side or another on this. I'm just saying this is how this is all playing together. Now, which brings me to this next story here that we're speaking about on immigration. Ice Barbie, or Kristi Noem, she was blindsided and caught in a kind of a huge lie as Representative Seth Magsanet, who's a Democrat from Rhode Island, confronted her on a service vet that ICE deported back in South Korea. Now, she was blatantly asked, have you guys, arrested U.S. American citizens, and have you arrested veterans and detained them and shipped them out on your immigration runs? And she flat out said, no, that's never happened. But he caught her in a lie.
United States military veterans, have you deported?
Sir, we have not deported U.S. citizens or military veterans.
I don't believe you served in the military. I haven't either, but I think you and I can agree that as Americans, we owe everything to those who have served our country in uniform, particularly those who have served in combat. Do you agree with that?
Sir, I believe that people that are in this United States that are citizens have legal status here.
Madam Secretary, we are joined on Zoom by a gentleman named Se-Jun Park. He is a United States Army combat veteran who was shot twice while serving our country in Panama in 1989. Like many veterans, he struggled with PTSD and substance abuse after his service. He was arrested in the 1990s for some minor drug offenses, nothing serious. He never hurt anyone besides himself, and he's been clean and sober for 14 years. He is a combat veteran, a Purple Heart recipient. He has sacrificed more for this country than most people ever have. Earlier this year, you deported him to Korea, a country he hasn't lived in since he was 7 years old. Will you join me in thanking Mr. Park for his service to our country?
Sir, I'm grateful for every single person that has served our country and follows our laws.
Can you please tell Mr. Park why you deported him?
Every one of them needs to be enforced.
But you understand that many veterans struggle with PTSD, many veterans struggle with substance abuse challenges. This man took 2 bullets for our country. You have broad authority, by the way, as Secretary, to issue humanitarian parole, to do deferred action. Will you commit to at least looking at Mr. Park's case to see if you can help him find a pathway back to this country that he sacrificed so much for?
I will absolutely look at his case.
Now, Noem has been under scrutiny lately for her handling of ICE, as well as an alleged ongoing relationship with staffer Corey Lewandowski. Ice Barbie, as she's been called or nicknamed, denies any wrongdoing in that relationship. She says that relationship does not exist. He's just a good friend. But Lewandowski, who has supposedly been supposed to be just a temporary employee back when we had the Doge thing going on, well, he still remains on the job, and he is still working closely with Kristi. So, there has been a lot of questions about, whether or not, Kristi's going to be staying on the job, as same with Pete Hegseth. Both of these people who have been appointed by Trump, and along with Patel, he's the third one. All 3 of them kind of been getting in hot water and making things bad for Trump, although he still stands behind each and every one of those 3 that I just mentioned, that they're doing one heck of a job. But, it's obvious that either Noem doesn't know what's going on in her own realm, or she just flat out lied, So it's kind of funny that she claims that we've never arrested any vets. Thank God for their service. And this guy was a Purple Heart recipient, and they shipped him off to Korea. It's pretty damn sad, if you ask me. Going on in news here closer to home in the state of Florida, as I wrap up this episode of The Right Has Left. Yeah, Democrat Elaine Higgins won the Miami mayor's race on Tuesday, defeating a Republican who was endorsed by President Donald Trump to end her party's nearly three-decade losing streak and give Democrats a boost in one of the last electoral battles ahead of the 2026 midterms. Now, Higgins, who is 61, will be the first woman to lead the city of Miami. She spoke frequently in the Hispanic-majority city about Trump's immigration crackdown, saying that he has heard of many people in Miami who were worried about family members being detained, And she campaigned as a proud Democrat despite the race being officially nonpartisan and beat Trump-backed candidate Emil Gonzalez, a former city manager who said he called Higgins to congratulate her. We are facing rhetoric from elected officials that is so dehumanizing and cruel, especially against immigrant populations, Higgins told the Associated Press after her victory speech. The residents of Miami are ready and will be done with that, she said. With nearly all votes counted this past Tuesday, Higgins led the Republican by about 19 percentage points. The local race is not predictive of what many may see what happened at the polls next year, but it did draw attention from two major national political parties and their leaders. The victory provides Democrats with some momentum heading into a high-stakes midterm election when the GOP is looking to keep its grip in Florida, including a Hispanic majority district in Miami-Dade County. The area has shifted increasingly rightward politically in recent years, and the city may become the home of Trump's presidential library, which, we'll have to see how that goes. Now, I myself live in Florida, and let me give you some background now on this. Not only did Higgins win as mayor of Miami, but there was also 5 seats picked up on a state level that went to the Democrats as well on special elections. So is this a telltale sign of how things are shifting? Maybe. But it's very, very particular that in the Miami-Dade County area, which all went to Trump in the last election, is now aggressively shifting to the left a little bit. Because all the Hispanics who live there have seen how ICE has come in there and have taken their family and friends, and it pisses them off, and they feel that they have been betrayed, especially the Latino community that resides in the Miami-Dade area. So you now have not only Miami-Dade perhaps starting to shift back to the Democrats, but of course you've got Orange County, which is another large area that is also becoming heavily Democratic. Now, Trump still carries a lot in the Jacksonville area and in the Tampa area, but he needs Miami-Dade, and I can tell you right now, with Higgins leading the trigger there and bringing to light some of the facts that are going on, and also with the crap that's going on in Alligator Alcatraz, which has been already proven that there's inhumane things going on there as well. Things are shifting in the wind a little bit. Now, West Palm Beach, where Trump has Mar-a-Lago, of course, they're all 90% of them are gaga over Trump. But again, there are citizens complaining there about how every time he is there and when he's not there now, that the airspace over Mar-a-Lago is now controlled and restricted. And these commercial jets are now flying over residential populated areas, and they're getting pissed off, and they want something done about that. And of course, the air traffic control, there's nothing we can do about it. It's restricted airspace. Trump doesn't want any aircraft for security reasons flying anywhere around his little pad. So that might change some things too, where people say, well, fine, we'll fix that, when the presidential race comes around next time around. So it's quite a circus, isn't it? Well, anyway, that is your edition of The Right Has Left. I'm Roy Garden. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I do look forward to your comments. And until next time, you try to have a good week. Take care.